Welcome to First Take. Molly Karam here solo in studio. There's my guy, Stephen A. Max Kellerman. How we doing, fellas?
Good morning.
What's going on? How y'all doing? Good morning. Good morning.
All good, gentlemen. Let's get right into it. King James returned to his old stomping grounds, Wade County, which appears to be his Achilles heel. The Cavs are 0-7 in Miami since LeBron's return to Cleveland, and they didn't just lose, they got thumped by 19 points. Stephen A., what did this loss prove about the Cavs?
Well, what it proved about the Cleveland Cavaliers is that they don't need to be in Miami the night before they have to play Miami. Because when that happens, it's problematic. When you look at LeBron James, he had a relatively pedestrian performance, even though he probably wasn't out partying. I'd like to check everybody else outside of LeBron James and Kevin Love and wonder what the hell they were doing. Jeff Green is a good dude. What is it, 2 for 10 shooting? Come on, bro. We need better than that. George Hill, you've been a model of inconsistency. And I'm going to ask this question again, Max Kellerman. Who shot J.R.? That was from the drama Dallas back years ago with J.R. Ewing, okay? You remember that popular hit show, Dallas. Who shot J.R.? Because, my God, you remember how this man got all sensitive and caught up in his feelings when I pointed out how you got to play. You want to be a starter. You upset that Dwayne Wade arrived there, and he's the one in the starting lineup. What are you going to do since you were sulking on the bench? And he's had an absolutely pathetic, horrific season. He hasn't just been a model of inconsistencies. Sometimes he's been a model of deplorable performances. And last night was one of them. This man plays 16 minutes. Minutes have been dwindling, by the way. He only attempts 4 shots. He makes one. I need an investigation as to whether or not he was partying in Club Live or something in South Beach. I mean, it looked like he had been out. I don't know what the hell was going on with him. But he showed up, but his game was nowhere to be found. And that's the situation. LeBron James last night was left hanging. Certainly it was a pedestrian performance, but he was left hanging. The kryptonite to the Cleveland Cavaliers, outside of Kevin Love's value as your number 2 option, somebody who spreads the floor and not only creates opportunities because he's pulling big men away from the basket, which gives LeBron James more room to operate offensively, not to mention elevate his assists, but also the kryptonite to the Cleveland Cavaliers is being in South Beach, being in Miami. They don't need to spend any time there because clearly they can't handle the lifestyle and then work. Something's not right. We all know, and we can imagine what it is, and I think that's what you saw last night.
Stephen A. Smith, I plan to come out here this morning and say that what this loss proves, because neither one of us think it's a very big deal, is that a lot of these new Cavs have never been to South Beach with LeBron James. And, in fact, they spent 2 nights there, and they played like it. I mean, that is simply the fact. So let me explore this next point, which was going to be my second point. How much of this do you think, and I'll give my opinion first, is about LeBron James' psychological issues playing either with or against Dwayne Wade? Because I believe that LeBron, when he first joined the Heat, the reason they lost to the Mavericks, and LeBron was playing hot potato in the 4th quarter, not making the pass because it was the right basketball move, but because he was abdicating responsibility. I don't want it. Someone else take responsibility. It seemed to me that the issue there was when your best player is not the alpha on the team doesn't function properly. And that LeBron James is so much better than everyone else. And that includes his good friend Dwayne Wade. Like, they're best friends. We get it. He is so much better than Dwayne Wade has ever been. And Dwayne Wade has been just about as good as anyone, right? That I really think that it affects the way he plays. It affected the way, it took him a full season and even the finals to understand it's okay, I could be the man, even on a team with Dwayne Wade. And Wade is the guy who had to tell him, you got to do this. And when they play each other, I rarely see LeBron, you know, in South Beach. I'm not talking about his teammates now who don't know how to handle South Beach, especially the guys who just got there. Never been there with him. Spend 2 nights with him, as you said, down there, and show up with no legs, basically. I'm talking about LeBron's play against Wade. I almost get the feeling, Stephen A., like he can't give the full expression of himself because the shadow looms so large, because his excellence dwarfs everyone else's in comparison, and that includes his boy. I almost get the feeling he doesn't want to embarrass him.
Well, listen, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, listen, you know, when you play against a familiar foe, it's a team game. And listen, I'm not holding LeBron James accountable for any of this. Now, I will pay attention to the fact that when Dwayne Wade was in Chicago last year, Cleveland lost to them all 4 times. All right, so that buffers your argument. Please don't get me wrong. But I also want to emphasize this. While I'm pointing out the ineptitude of some of the players, I want to be the first to acknowledge, Molly and Max, I forgive them. I understand
I do too,
that South Beach can be problematic, Max. I truly get it. I mean, let me confess, Max. South Beach can be a problem, okay? I mean, I hold it. Listen, I'm getting on JR because he just looked awful. He just looked awful, and he's been looking awful all season. But everybody else, I mean, look, I mean, these kind of things happen. It's a regular season game. You have no business. It should be outlawed, personally. My personal opinion is that it should be outlawed that you have 2 off days in Miami before you play Miami.
Stephen,
you really should not do that. That's really not good.
It's worth the loss.
Go ahead.
It's worth the L. You know, because you get a win at night.
By the way, not just South Beach. Stephen A., South Beach is where all... South Beach is where all the businesses are and everything, but that whole stretch of beach, Miami Beach, you can keep going north. That whole stretch is a problem.
And that's being technical. When I say South Beach, everybody knows what I mean. I mean all of it, okay? I mean all of it. I mean Coral Gables. I mean all of that. I mean all of it, okay? It's just something about it. In the regular season, now the playoffs, that's different because priorities kick in. You're trying to win a championship, all of that stuff happens. But during the regular season, particularly for 2 teams destined for the playoffs, and you can't have a crew in Miami for a couple of days. So I just want to make sure that the world understands that while I'm getting on the Cleveland Cavaliers for their performance last night, I'm just dissecting and highlighting what transpired. But in the end, I want to make sure everybody understands. I'm not upset at them. I'm not mad at them at all. A matter of fact, I stand here with them in unison, being guilty of South Beach being a distraction. I just want to make sure I understand.
You ever wonder why Stockton and Malone, with machine-like efficiency, year in and year out, were so consistent?
That's right. Utah. They're in bed on time. Ain't those kind of distractions.
You're in bed on time.
Ain't those kind of distractions. Right. There we go. So we forgive Cleveland. Let's just hope they don't have to play them during the playoffs because it could be a problem. I keep saying it, and I've been saying it for years. But Miami is one thing. The Miami Heat is one thing. South Beach is a problem.
Stephen A., what about the idea of LeBron, Dwayne Wade? You know, like, to me it seems as though if there's a big brother there, it's Dwayne Wade with the big brother personality. You know, and if you have brothers close in age, you'll know, even if your little brother is better than you at basketball or pool or whatever, when push comes to shove, the big brother can put that whammy on the little brother, and it's tough for the little brother to overcome it. And sometimes I get the feeling like that's the dynamic between LeBron and Wade, and LeBron is deferential in ways to Wade, both when they're on the same team and when they're opposing each other.
Well, I just think that Dwayne Wade is more energized going up against LeBron because LeBron is the best in the world, and Dwayne Wade uses that as an opportunity to prove that he still has a little bit left. No question about it, and that LeBron wasn't the only reason they won 2 titles and went to 4 straight NBA Finals appearances while they were together in Miami. But it's not like LeBron James shrinks to the competition or anything like that.
No,
I think Dwayne Wade elevates his level of play, and LeBron James is about priorities because he's about winning championships. That's small potatoes to him. And getting back to J.R. Smith for a quick second, I don't want anybody to misconstrue. I'm not implying that he was at Club Live. I don't know what the hell he was doing, and I don't care. I was just talking about how he looked on the basketball court. I don't know his personal business, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell on him. The bottom line is I'm only talking about his game, which was straight garbage last night, but he wasn't alone. There was a whole bunch of Cavs who were straight garbage the second that Kevin Love went out.
You're saying if we take First Take on the road and you show up a little low energy in the A block for some reason, we'll know why?
Actually, that is false because South Beach energizes me. It doesn't deflate me.
I see. By the way, if the bosses are listening,
in the U.S.
Listen, Molly, if the bosses are listening, me too. It energizes me too.
Energizes all three of us. Can we get
Molly, it energizes Molly.
do we have a reason to go to Miami? Can the Dolphins get good or something? All right,
No,
guys.
Miami Heat could give you a reason to go there in the first round.
Yeah,
why doesn't everyone live in
LeBron
South Beach? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Seriously. All right, guys, let's get into the Cavs and obviously the team they've faced in the last three finals. So the Warriors received some positive news. Kevin Durant expected back tomorrow night against the Bucks. Now, assuming both teams are healthy, many expect a fourth installment between Golden State and the Land in the finals. But Max, should we want that? Do we want another Cavs-Warriors final?
Nope. I said last year, hey, it's great. This is the when people, Stephen A., you were complaining all year. We already know the finals. It ruins the regular season. And I was saying all year, this is great. Who doesn't want to see this epic trilogy? And this is the deciding, game because it's one apiece. But now it's played out because we have our answers now. Look, before the Warriors got Kevin Durant, LeBron James is so bananas. He's so much better than everyone else that before they got Durant, even if they won 73 games, LeBron, with Kyrie as his second banana and Kevin Love as his third, could beat them. He did it. He beat them. Game 7 on the road. I was there, Stephen A. You and I saw each other there. He won. He did it as the MVP of the series. And the season before, even without Kyrie and Kevin Love in those finals, he took them 6 tough games because LeBron is LeBron. But finally, they stacked it up so high on the Warriors. They added KD. We have our answer. We know the Cavs cannot beat, whether or not they have Kyrie, they ain't beating no Warriors team with Kevin Durant. So what else do we need to know? The whole thing has been played out. What we want to see, and the real finals, of course, is Golden State versus Houston in the Western Conference Finals. It's like when the Spurs used to meet the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That's what you were waiting to see. That's the answer you were waiting for. And then one of those teams against Boston or Toronto or the less likely, but Paul Pierce brought it up the other day, Philadelphia 76ers, if Markelle Fultz has an improbable kind of late-season comeback from injury.
Oh, please.
I'm just saying, any one of those matchups would be more interesting than seeing the Cavs get slaughtered again against either Golden State or the Rockets. Golden State and the Rockets is the real finals in the Western Conference.
Well, a couple of things that I wanted to point out there. There's no disagreement there, but they're not the finals because they're in the same conference. So let's deal with what's real. Number one, Markelle Fultz, what I talked to him about yesterday, I just wanted to clarify, folks, because some folks called me yesterday, Max Kellerman. Let me clarify for something on national television. I never said a word about Markelle Fultz's game. I talked about his injury. I talked about how butt ugly his shot was because somebody messed with his shot while he was injured. But I am fully aware of the fact that this kid, the #1 overall pick, is expected to be a big-time player, and I expect his talents to shine. But if he has that kind of attitude dealing with the media in the city of Philadelphia, he is going to get crushed. That is the point that I was making yesterday. That was the point I made after the show yesterday when some of his friends called me, and I had to emphasize that point, and I'm going to make it again. He better
Stephen
act
A., your whole
straight,
point
or
was
Philadelphia will crush him.
It seems to me that your whole point was, as the #1 pick and a very talented player, he needs to be prepared for those kind of questions, obviously, in a city like Philly. If he was nobody, if he wasn't a big deal, it wouldn't be the same issue.
That's not my point, though. I got you, but let me move on from that point. When we talk about an NBA Finals, there's a bigger reason why we should not want to see Golden State in Cleveland. It's because LeBron is not fully loaded. And it's not just because of the loss of Kyrie Irving. It's because of the questionable durability of Kevin Love. I mean, I got to be honest with you. It's gotten to the point where if somebody walks by Kevin Love with bad breath, he might need to sit out 2 games. That's the feeling that you get. Every damn thing hurts him right now. And I'm not saying to insult him because I'm a fan of Kevin Love. I genuinely like him, and I think he's a damn good player. I'm just saying durability is a question mark. Got elbowed in the mouth yesterday, and then came back and played, but couldn't stay because of concussion-like symptoms rather than all of this stuff. Every time you turn around, this guy is hurt yet again. And so when I look at it from that perspective, LeBron James would be going into the finals and he wouldn't be fully loaded. So I'm actually hoping that he loses before the finals so he doesn't have to subject himself to not having a chance again in the finals. I got to admit to you, Max, I'm addicted to what I saw on ABC primetime Saturday night a few weeks ago when the Boston Celtics had that terrific game against the Houston Rockets. It wouldn't bother me at all if a healthy Kyrie is ready to go. If the Boston Celtics and the Houston Rockets ended up in the NBA Finals, I think that would be a terrific NBA Finals because Boston defends. They got a bunch of young Rough Riders that ain't scared of anybody. And James Harden and Chris Paul, that would be something to behold. But I also give Toronto credit by telling you Toronto against Houston would be a great matchup as well with DeRozan and Lowry and Ibaka and Valanciunas and those boys going up against Harden and Capella and Chris Paul and those guys. That would be a sensational series as well. I wouldn't want to travel to Toronto. Let me take that back. I wouldn't want to travel there. But once I get there, that has South Beach capabilities. Let me just leave it at that.
International
My point is Toronto, Houston, Boston, Houston. I think those would be incredibly compelling NBA Finals. LeBron James is short-handed because he doesn't have the troops available to him, and that's why I wouldn't want Cleveland in the Finals this year.
Listen, even if LeBron James had Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving, you saw it last year, they have zero shot against the Warriors. Now, what would give them a shot against the Warriors? Well, it's the same thing you're complaining about in terms of the Cavs and Kevin Love's injuries. Steph Curry is at least as brittle as Kevin Love. Look, Steph Curry is underpaid because of his ankle. His ankle is finally okay. The knee goes, right? Like, this guy, that's an issue heading into these playoffs. Meantime, Klay Thompson, now we're talking about both Splash Brothers. He's coming back from an injury to his shooting hand, the right thumb on his shooting hand. Is that important? Is that a significant injury? Does that raise red flags? Yeah, man. One of the great shooters ever, a guy capable of getting hotter than anyone who ever lived. 37 points in a quarter, 26 points in another quarter in the same season. Has a right thumb issue on his shooting hand, Stephen A.
Hold on, Matt.
Both Splash Brothers have been recently physically compromised, to say nothing of the other two stars, KD with the ribs and Draymond.
But nobody's questioning that. What I'm saying to you is that if Kyrie were healthy, I would love to see it. If Golden State were healthy, there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't love to see because there's such a juggernaut. But I will say this to you. If Kyrie was still on Cleveland, along with Kevin Love, even though Golden State would be the favorite, what would intrigue me is Cleveland's ability or the questionable ability to figure Golden State out.
How?
Because we're talking about LeBron. I don't know how.
They didn't do it last year. They got slaughtered.
No, you're not listening. I'm saying because they got slaughtered. You got to remember, Max, I remember when the Los Angeles Lakers lost a game 1 to the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals by 40.
I remember that.
And they came back and won the series. What I'm trying to say to you is that in the game of basketball, when you have a superstar or two, anything can happen from year to year.
Okay, this is my very point, Stephen A.
Hold on. So my point is, I would be intrigued by that.
Okay.
Since that's not possible, I like Toronto and Boston against Houston.
I think you are missing the point, or at least my point, which is I think that's totally wrong. The Golden State-Cleveland issue, once Golden State got KD, has been decided. There is nothing more we will learn from that, even had they retained Kyrie. The year before, LeBron overcame an impossible obstacle. That impossible obstacle added KD, case closed. They closed the case with a third game, with a third match of the trilogy. They left no doubt. This Warriors iteration, this iteration of the Warriors team is too much for these Cavs. So they move Kyrie, whatever. I'm not interested in it anymore. That chapter has been closed. We have a conclusion. There's nothing LeBron could do against that Golden State team fully loaded. But this Rockets team is a new situation. This Rockets team basically doesn't lose when fully healthy. Can they overcome Golden State? Can Golden State overcome them? To me, that's a bigger question. And then, of course, Houston coming out would be a bigger story and more interesting.
It's not a question. It's not a question because the conversation is about the finals, and they can't be in the finals together.
Therefore,
it's not a question.
Therefore, the most interesting thing that could happen is that Golden State, in fact, can't get past Houston. Houston does make it to the finals, and a team coming out of the East, preferably the Celtics, given the market, the history.
Isn't that what I just spent 5 minutes saying?
Sure, but your reason is wrong. The reason is that The Warriors and the Cavs has been concluded. There's nothing more you can learn. It has nothing to do with the injuries to anyone. That has been played out. It's
okay,
done.
you know what? I'll concede that point if you shut up about LeBron 2 years ago winning a championship. Because what you have been saying, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting ready to tell you why. Because you have been harping on religiously how LeBron, look what he almost did by himself.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say to you is that if we were fantasizing here, because obviously it's a fantasy because Kyrie's on Boston now, but if we were fantasizing here about Kyrie still being on Cleveland and Kevin Love still being on Cleveland and Cleveland having gotten smoked last year, what's wrong with being intrigued by the possibility that the great LeBron could have learned from some of the errors that took place last year in the finals and resurrected in such a fashion that the same outcome might not happen the second time around?
We can just go round and around about that. We just disagree about that.
Of course we could.
But I will say that that's not a good enough reason to not want to see new blood in the finals. I'd rather see new blood, and I will concede this point.
I
would
want
like
Boston and Houston.
Me too. Sure. But I will concede this point. I said
Toronto
yesterday,
Houston, no
but I have to admit the truth. I do, in fact, fantasize about things like if Kyrie were still on the Cavs, what would happen against X opponent, right? I would like to say that's not what I have fantasies about, but in fact, Molly, some of my fantasies do involve that.
Oh, you've grown up, Max.
Well, I'm so proud of you to admit
say.
that. It's so touching. It's so touching.
All right, guys. By the way, LeBron had some real interesting comments on this year's MVP. I'll tell you what he said, his MVP pick later on, and you all can react to it. But meanwhile, Mel Kiper's latest NFL mock draft is out, and it's a good sign for quarterback prospects. Find out why they might not be waiting very long in that green room on draft day. And the NFL changes an important rule starting next season. Stephen A. is not happy about it. We'll explain when First Take continues.
Still, a lot more to come on First Take. WWE's power couple Triple H and Stephanie McMahon will drop by.